Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah, amma ba'd. I've been doing a lot of self-reflecting, and to be honest with all of you, by the permission of Allah Jalla wa Ala, there's a covenant that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have taken with all of us, and that covenant is the Shahada La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. And there are certain requirements and certain things that this statement or this kalimatain entails, and we as Muslims must uphold our side of the bargain, and that is dealing with this kalimatain. And we have to be aware of not being complacent or being duped to believe that because we have accepted the shahada that there is nothing required of us to do, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to bring us to count for us not sticking to our covenants or sticking to our treaties or to our pacts or our bonds. Allah Jalla wa Ala, He says in the Quran, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, الذين ينقضون عهد الله من بعد ميثاقه ويقطعون ما أمر الله به أن يوصل ويفسدون في الأرض أولئك هم الخاسرون. In the second chapter of the Quran, which is known as Surah Baqarah, the second chapter of the Quran, Allah Jalla wa Ala, He addresses this issue when He said those who break الَّذِينَ يَنْقُضُونَ عَهْدَ اللَّهِ, those who break the ahd, the treaty, the bond, the covenant which Allah have taken from you once you have accepted your shahada, those who break the covenant after has been rectified, after rectifying or ratifying it rather, meaning min ba'di mithaqihi, and وَيَقْطَعُونَ, and as a result of that they cut off or they break off and they sever those things which Allah has ordered to be joined, such as the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, such as the ties of kinship with kith and kin. Allah Jalla wa Ala has allowed us to take a covenant with Him, as He said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu awfu bil uqud, O you who believe, fulfill your contracts. Fulfilling one's contract and sticking to one's contract is a testification to one's faith. And honestly, I believe that I have fell short in my side of the contract with Allah Azza wa Jal. I don't know about you all, but I know about me. And Allah Jalla wa Ala continually in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Ra'd, the 13th chapter of the Quran, Allah Jalla wa Ala He goes into this concept even more further in the following verses. I believe it starts from verse 19 all the way up to verse 25. Allah Jalla wa Ala, He says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem, أَفَمَنْ يَعْلَمُ أَنَّمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ مِنْ رَبِّكَ الْحَقُّ كَمَنْ هُوَ أَعْمَى إِنَّمَا يَتَذَكَّرُ أُولُو الْأَلْبَابِ. Allah Jalla wa Ala, He says, should he then who knows that what has been revealed unto you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from your Lord is the truth, be like him who is blind, كَمَنْ هُوَ أَعْمَى. But it is only the men of understanding, the men with strong loop, who will understand what Allah Jalla wa Ala is alluding to here. Allah continues. He says, الَّذِينَ يُوفُونَ بِعَهْدِ اللَّهِ وَلَا يَنْقُضُونَ الْمِيثَاقَ. Then Allah described, He gave us a description here of the person who believe in his Lord and the truth that comes to Muhammad sallallahu from his Lord is a description. Those who yufuna bi ahdillah, they fulfill the covenant which they have taken with Allah. They fulfill the bond and the treaty which they have taken with Allah. وَلَا يَنْقُضُونَ الْمِيثَاقَ, and they are not known to sever that bond or that treaty or that covenant. They're not known to sever it by cutting it off. Then Allah said, وَالَّذِينَ يَصِلُونَ مَا أَمَرَ اللَّهُ بِهِ أَن يُفْصِلَ وَاللَّهُ بِهِ أَن يُوصَلَ وَيَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُمْ وَيَخَافُونَ سُوءَ الْحِسَابِ. Then Allah said, there are those who join that which Allah has commanded to be joined. They keep the good relationship with their kin and their relatives, and they fear their Lord, and they dread the terrible reckoning. Then Allah said, وَالَّذِينَ صَبَرُوا ابْتِغَاءَ وَجْهِ رَبِّهِمْ وَأَقَامُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَأَنفَقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ سِرًّا وَعَلَانِيَةً وَيَدْرَؤُونَ بِالْحَسَنَةِ السَّيِّئَةَ أُولَئِكَ لَهُمْ عُقْبَى الدَّارِ. Then Allah described the reward of keeping your covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for these individuals. Allah Jalla wa Ala, He says, there are those who remain patient, seeking Allah Jalla wa Ala face. They perform the prayer and they spend out of that which Allah has bestowed upon them, secretly and openly, and they defend evil with good. They do not repel evil with evil. They repel evil with good. They do not return evil back with evil. They return it back with good. Allah said, for such there is a good end. For these individuals, they will have a good end. Inshallah, we'll get into that, some of the ways you can sever it. Just on a brief service, on surface, the way that you can sever the covenant with Allah Jalla wa Ala is in His commandments, as it mentioned, those things which Allah has imposed upon us, and by falling to those things which He has prohibited us to stay away from, and also by severing the ties that He have joined to be kept together, such as the kif and the kin, the relationships between family and relatives. This is something that Allah Jalla wa Ala talks about, not severing that ties of woundship. Even in the beginning of Surah Nisa, Allah Jalla wa Ala mentioned this as well. Continuing, Allah Jalla wa Ala now says, جَنَّاتُ أَدِنٍ يَدْخُلُونَهَا وَمَنْ صَلَحَ مِنْ آبَائِهِمْ وَأَزْوَاجِهِمْ وَذُرِّيَّاتِهِمْ وَالْمَلَائِكَةُ يَدْخُلُونَ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنْ كُلِّ بَابٍ سَلَامٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِمَا صَبَرْتُمْ فَنِعْمَ عُقْبَى الدَّارِ. Allah Jalla wa Ala, He says that they will be in Eden, guarding the paradise, everlasting gardens, which they shall enter therein. Also those who acted righteously from amongst their fathers, and their wives and their offspring. And angels shall enter unto them from every gate, saying to them, Salamu alaikum, for that you have persevered in patience. Excellent is the final home. Indeed is the final home. For ni'ma uqubad dar. So one of the rewards that we see for keeping your covenant with Allah and keeping the kifs and the relationship between kif and kin, we see that Allah Jalla wa Ala will reward you handsomely by giving you a beautiful abode, by entering you to a paradise, by allowing you to be greeted by the angels, something that you have heard about throughout your whole lives. Many of us really don't take in the significance or the creation of the angels. We don't even reflect on that stuff, man. It really, like the angels are real, and we really don't reflect on it. Become like a boring subject. But you don't even realize that actually Allah Jalla wa Ala says in this same surah, which we're talking about, Surah Ra'd. Actually, I'm going to go to the verse so that you can get a better understanding of it. Have appreciation for what Allah Jalla wa Ala is telling you. Some of the purposes of the angels you don't even realize. Allah Jalla wa Ala, He says in this same surah, It's amazing, man. Allah Jalla wa ala, He says, له معقبات من بين يديه ومن خلفه يحفظونه من أمر الله. For him, each person, there are angels in succession before and behind him. You have angels that are guarding you. You think that you're going through life easy breezy, that you so happen to miss that accident. You so happen to not fall into something or become victim to something. No, you actually had the angels protecting you. This is Surah Ra'd, Surah 13. You actually had the angels protecting you, right? This is not a topic for me to go into how you how you can repair severed bonds. Maybe another time I will go into that actually. How you repair relationships between kiths and kins and relatives. That's a whole different other subject. However, inshallah ta'ala, we'll repair something as a research and go into some of the proper steps that you can use to mend fences between parents, between relatives and stuff like that, inshallah. But you have angels that are there to protect you. They play a major role in you being intact. And you owe them more respect than what we show them. This is why we have been prohibited to go inside a masjid eating raw onions or garlic. This is why it has been prohibited for us to smoke shurib dukhan, cigarettes, because it offends the angels. That smell offends the angels. We have become so selfish as human beings that we think the earth is just ours and that everything is subjected to us. That's not true. You have angels that lives amongst you, whether you understand it or not. And these angels, as they were fighting on the battlefield of Badr, they were fighting on the battlefield of Uhud. They was also, as we mentioned before, the Prophet ﷺ was mentioning how he saw the man who had only 3 strings of hair on his beard, his lihya. And the man cut him off, he shaved him, and the Prophet ﷺ frowned at him. And he asked why the Prophet ﷺ frowned. He said because there was an angel hanging on each one of them. This is authentic hadith, by the way. The angels are there to accommodate us, whether you understand it or not. So, to have angels greet you is a magnificent feat. And this is why Allah said what? يَدُخُلُونَ He said, وَمَلَائِكَةُ يَدُخُلُونَ عَلَيْهِمْ مِنْ كُلِّ بَابٍ. The angels are going to meet them at every entrance of the gate. They're going to be at every gate saying, Salamu alaykum bima sabaratum. So everything that you endured in this life, all of the hardships, all of the trials you have endured on behalf of this deen, you are going to be rewarded in full compensation now. You are going to look at, as Allah told us over and over in the Quran, that a day in this life is as if you probably tarried, you only probably tarried for perhaps a half an hour or an hour. It's going to seem that insignificant. The time is going to be that insignificant and compared to when you actually meet your Lord. Allah Jalla wa ala, He goes on now and describes those who break their covenant. I want you to pay attention now. And the first verse was in Surah Baqarah, or 27th verse. Allah talks about أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. He said they are the losers, those who break their covenant with Allah. They are the losers, those who does transgressions on the earth. But pay attention to what He's going to say now. He says, والذين ينقضون عهد الله من بعد ميثاقه ويقطعون ما أمر الله به أن يوصل ويفسدون في الأرض أولئك لهم اللعنة ولهم سوء الدار. Pay attention, 2 things now. Allah Jalla wa ala said, and those who break the covenant of Allah after its ratification, okay, after accepting your shahada, basically, after accepting your shahada, then you have to accept everything that entails with the shahada. After accepting your shahada and you break that, you sever that bond. You don't stick to the commandments. You fall into the prohibitions. You do what you want to do, and you behave the way you want to behave. You are breaking the covenant. Allah said after that, and you severed that which Allah has commanded to be joined. They severed the bond of kinship, and they are not good to their relatives, and they work mischief in the land. By the way, severing the ties with your family, severing the ties is a way of causing mischief in the land. People don't understand that. Keeping the ties is a way of causing beautiful things to the land. Everything is affected. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس. Pay attention. Everything is affected and closely related. The plants, the trees, the animals, everything in the earth that we are privileged to is affected by our actions. Man's sins, man's transgressions, man's disobedience, man's negligence towards his Lord affect the actual nature of earth. It affects everything. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر. ظهر الفساد. Fasad here just doesn't mean evil, but all types of trials, earthquakes, hurricanes. This is what we believe in our deen. All types of pollutions, everything that is bad and detrimental to the actual earth is due to what man have done with his own hands, destroying the very nature of earth. As Allah Jalla wa Ala, He says in another verse, and it's funny, right? Because reading these verses, it makes me think in the Quran how Allah Jalla wa Ala, He actually lays everything down. He says, وَلَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ بَعْدَ إِصْلَاحِهَا. Okay? And do not do mischief on the earth after it has been set in order. After the earth has been rectified. After the earth has been set in order with the commandments of Allah, with the sending down of the messengers, with the sending of the books, the divine scriptures, and then you turn around and disrupt that, then you are causing harm to the earth. So Allah Jalla wa Ala says, after they rectify and break that, they are the ones, Allah said, on them is the curse. They will be far away from Allah's mercy. In the first verse in Surah Baqarah, Allah said those who break the covenant is what? They are khasirun, they are losers. They lose themselves and their families in this life. And in the next, they will see where they have lost. Okay? Then Allah said, Ula'ika lahumul la'na. On them is a curse. And with the ulama of the sunnah, they say that when Allah curses an individual, it means one of the definitions is that Allah has distanced him far away from Allah's mercy. Allah has distanced him far away from Allah's mercy. And then it says here, at the end of it, it says, Allah Jalla wa Ala says, and for them is the unhappy, meaning the evil home of the hellfire. That's where they're going to end up at. That is where they're going to end up at. I wanted to bring these verses in the beginning just to show you the magnitude of why I believe that I have fell short in my covenant with my Lord. And hopefully all of you will do some self-reflecting yourself. We have to really, really analyze, are we being truthful to the covenant which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has invited us to? When you said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, what did you do afterwards? Did you understand the covenant you was taking? Do you understand the magnitude of that statement? Do you understand what that statement means? Do you understand the requirements of that statement? Do you understand those things that invalidate that statements? Do you understand those things that negate that statements? Do you understand the conditions of those statements? Do you understand the pillars of those statements? Do you understand all these things? It's important, because if you don't, then you are ratifying. You can fall into ratifying that covenant because you don't understand the covenant itself. You have took a covenant with your Lord. I wanted to bring some statements from Sheikh Muhammad Abdul Wahab about this statement. And I want you to analyze, just like I analyze after reading this, if you fall under this, be honest with yourself. Inshallah ta'ala, you can rectify. The Sheikh, he was asked to explain the statement of La ilaha illallah. And he gave a beautiful scholarly research. It's not the time to go over that. I'm not doing this book. I did this book multiple times. Maybe another time we do that, but I just want to bring a piece of it, inshallah ta'ala, from this book, just to analyze and highlight what are we doing for the covenant of La ilaha illallah Muhammadan Rasulullah. Are our actions meeting up to that? He said, وَلَيْسَ مُرَادَ قَوْلُهَا بِلِسَانٍ مَعَ الْجَهْلِ بِمَعْنِهَا. He said the objective or the aim or the purpose is not to utter this statement with just your tongue. No one is looking for you just to say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. That's not the objective, along or coupled with being ignorant of what it means. So someone come to you and you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, be a witness that none has the right to be worshipped except Allah. And then they ask you, what do that mean? And you can't explain to them what that literally means. You don't understand what that entails. That means you don't celebrate your birthday. You don't call your birthday another name. It's not an anniversary. You don't try to trick things. You don't deceive things. That's what this statement is entailing. You don't do those things. Whatever Allah have sanctioned for you to stay away from, you stay away from. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that you sit there and you be sympathetic to people who are cursed by Allah. It doesn't mean you sit there and try to argue on their behalf. Sit there and argue back and forth on behalf. You become so liberal and so sympathetic to everyone's plight but your own. You got a nafs, a soul. So you're going to stand in front of your Lord and tell your Lord. That's what you're going to do. You're going to stand in front of your Lord and tell your Lord, oh, I was being sympathetic to their plight. Did not Luke lose his wife because of that? Was she not lagged behind because she was sympathetic to their plight? You think Allah cared about how she felt, about how they felt? They was committing an act that was never done before. So you think Allah took in consideration because she felt some type of pity in herself for their plight, when their plight was going against the very commandments of Allah. When you said, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, this is what you have to understand. You have taken a covenant. Whatever he doesn't like, you don't like. That's how it works. And we don't understand the magnitude of that. So when you see Muslims on here arguing and pleading on behalf of other people's plights, what is wrong with you? Islam don't condone that. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah don't condone that. You won't find one narration that condone that. SubhanAllah Adhim. So he said, you ignorant of its meanings. And then he goes on, he says, فَإِنَّ مُنَافِقِينَ يَقُولُونَهَا وَهُمْ تَحْتَ كُفَارٍ. He said there was a group of people who actually said this statement. And just because they uttered this statement with their tongue, it still didn't save them. They're going to be in the lowest part of the hellfire, under the kuffar. You understand this? They were hypocrites. May Allah protect us from nifaq, but there were hypocrites that said this statement. They uttered this statement while they are going to be under the kuffar in the hellfire. Allah Jalla wa Ala said, إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ فِي الدَّرْكِ الْأَسْفَلِ مِنَ النَّارِ. Allah said, indeed, those who are hypocrites, they will be in the lowest part of the hellfire. They're going to be under the kuffar. May Allah protect us from that. Then he continues. He said, مَعَ قَوْنِهِمْ يُصَلُّونَ وَيَتَصَدَّقُونَ. Don't be deceived by your actions. None of us should be deceived by our actions. If you find yourself being duped by any actions that you put forth, as it was mentioned by Imam Malik, whoever loved to be praised, lose a dignity. He lose a part of his dignity. Whoever loves himself to be praised, he lose a part of his dignity. Although they were in the state of praying, the hypocrites prayed. They were in the state of giving sadaqah. They gave charity. ولكن مراد قولها مع معرفتها بالقلب ومحبتها ومحبة أهلها وبغض من خالفها ومعادته. Pay attention now. He said, however, what is intended, what is entailed by this covenant that you and I taken, that we know what it means, we recognize it, and with it, with complete insight in our hearts. We have a love for it and a love for its people. We have a hatred for those who oppose it and transgresses against it. You understand? There is no way in the world a person who said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah is walking around talking about the kuffar as my friend. There's no way. There's no way. Al-wala wal-bara is important. And if you don't understand wala wal-bara, your family don't understand wala wal-bara, anyone don't understand wala wal-bara, this is why it's brought in the beginning of the Latitude Usul. You have to understand the basics. You cannot be walking around talking about somebody as your friend and confidant who is a disbeliever in Allah Azza wa Jal, who commits shirk and think it's okay to do that. The most gravest crime to do against Allah, and you're talking about this is my friend. How? Kaif? لا يتكذون المؤمنين كافرين أولياء من دون مؤمنين. You will not see the believers taking the disbelievers as awliyas besides Allah, besides the believers. You will never see it happen. Never. This is why we need to go back and understand. This is why I am admitting to you all, I have failed in my covenant. I failed in my covenant with Allah. I said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and I continue to make many mistakes that breaks it after I have ratified it. Min ba'di mithaqihi. Pay attention. He says, they opposes it. Sheikh Salih Fawzani comment on this part of it. He says, the intent of la ilaha illallah is that a person says it while believing it in his heart. he believes in it. He acts according to its requirements. And he shows this wala, this loyalty and this association to its people. And he shows this animosity, okay? And his hatred and his separation from those who oppose it. وَهَذَا هُوَ حُبُّ فِي اللَّهِ. This is the meaning of loving for Allah. وَبُغْضَ فِي اللَّهِ, and hating for Allah. هذه كلها من مقتضى لا إله إلا الله. All of this is entailed and required in the statement لا إله إلا الله. ولهذا قالوا, for this reason they say لا إله إلا الله لها سبع الشروط. For this reason the scholars, they say that لا إله إلا الله itself has 7 conditions, and a lot of us heard it before, and there are many poems on the conditions of لا إله إلا الله. One of them he brings here is علم يقين وإخلاص وصدق مع محبة وانقياد وقبول لها. And just so you know that these conditions are very important. His mercy does outweigh his anger, but his anger is there. It's funny, right? Because a lot of people think of that, right? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mercy, he's written it. He says it in Surah An'am. كتب الله على نفسي كتب الرحمة. He said كتب الله الرحمة على نفس على غضب وعلى نفسه. That Allah has written mercy for himself over his anger. Allah doesn't say that. But in Surah Ma'idah, Allah says something else. Allah said, وَعْلَمْ, know that Allah Jalla wa Ala is all forgiving and most merciful. But then he said, وَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. Know that he also severe in torment. You see, the mercy of Allah Jalla wa Ala is so vast that it is broken down into 2 sections that many people don't understand. There is a mercy that is exclusive to the believers, and then there is a mercy that is vast and extended to all of creation. Allah Jalla wa Ala is Ar-Rahman and He's Ar-Rahim. When He's Ar-Rahman, then that Ar-Rahman, that mercy extends to all the creation. This is why the atheist is still alive to breathe. This is why the atheist, even though he denied the very existence of the creation, outwardly, because inwardly he doesn't, but outwardly he manifests to deny the very existence of the Creator, Allah still allows his soul to return to him, still allows him to graze from his earth, still provide for him. This is that mercy that entails and extends to all of creation. But then it's an exclusive mercy that is only reserved for the believers. That's only reserved for those who are faithful to Allah Azza wa Jal. And there is a cutoff point. I want you to understand that. There is a cutoff point when that mercy will no longer be extended. This is why Allah Jalla wa Ala said, وَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. Know that He is extremely shadid in bringing about retribution and punishment. Because after you give a person 1,000,000 chances, and you gave them 1,000,000 times to make things right, when they still exceed that time and still go against it, now the opposite needs to take place. You have to be extremely hard on them now, because they have exceeded the actual mercy that you extended and you made it easy for them. You understand? So Allah Jalla wa Ala is just. He is just. He continues, he says here, كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم من قال لا إله إلا الله مخلصا وفي رواية خالصا من قلبه وفي رواية صادقا من قلبه وفي حديث آخر من قال لا إله إلا الله وكفر بما يعبد من دون الله. So in these different versions of this hadith, there are many people out there who are sort of like the Christian concept. Accept Jesus as your Savior, waliyadu billah, and everything is okay. And then there are people who hear hadiths like this that are authenticated, and then they believe that just say La ilaha illallah and everything is okay. There are explanations to these hadiths. So in one version, the Prophet ﷺ says, whoever says none has the right to be worshipped except Allah, but he says this with complete sincerity. In another version, he says that he says this with sincerity from his heart. And in another version, he says this truthful from his heart. And in another hadith altogether, he says, whoever say La ilaha illallah and disbelieve in that which is worshipped besides Allah. So you see the explanation here? So there is another narration that says, Man qala la ilaha illallah dakhala jannah. I believe that narration comes in Muslim. Whoever says La ilaha illallah will enter paradise. However, there is an explanation to that. Just saying La ilaha illallah alone will not enter you into paradise. You have to وَكَفَرَ بِمَا يُعْبَدُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. You have to disbelieve in everything that is worshipped and associated with Allah other than Allah Azza wa Jal. You have to actually follow the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You actually have to stay away from shirk, bid'ah, kufr, and so forth. So just saying la ilaha illallah alone is not enough. You have to know what it means. You have to know what it entails. You have to know what invalidates it. You have to know how to practice it. Put it in practice. We know when we are violating la ilaha illallah, whenever we prefer what we think is right, our desires over the revelation, we are violating our covenant la ilaha illallah. Whenever we prefer the guidance of the creation over that of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then we are violating Muhammad al-Rasulullah. Do you understand this? Whenever you prefer someone else's guidance over the guidance of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you are violating, you are breaking the covenant of Muhammad al-Rasulullah. Whenever you prefer a legislation or a ruling or anything other than Allah has not sanctioned, then you are doing what? You are preferring. When you do that, you are violating the covenant which you made with Allah. Whenever you sit here and tell yourself that it's okay to enjoy and participate in holidays, it's okay to be sympathetic to plights of people who are cursed by Allah, it's okay to do this and to do that and destroy yourself, it's okay. Brother, you are being too religious. Sister, you are being too religious. You are being too strict. You are chasing people away. No, you're not. The Lord told you not to do it. That is not chasing no one away. They are following their own desires. They are running away. That's what you say. We ain't chasing them. They are running away. Their Lord told them to do something. They chose not to do it, so they chose to run away. Since when you have to be sympathetic to that? Since when now you have to take in and fight their battle for them? You're not going to be brought to judgment because of them. They're going to be brought in their own. If Allah Jalla wa'ala says stay away from that, then He meant that. That was it. If a person ran and jumped onto that and did that, that's what that person chose to do. You can't sit here and say, well, the brother is being too harsh, and this is why we don't like the Salafis, and this is why we don't like this. No, you don't like yourself because you prefer your desires over the haqq. And you violated the la ilaha illallah. You broke the covenant that you said you took it with Allah Azza wa Jal. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. When you took that covenant, there were certain things you need to know that was in play. And you didn't know what was in play. When you took that covenant, that means your heart, that means your tongue, and that means your limbs was submitting to the Sharia and to the commandments and to that which Allah Jalla wa'ala has commanded. That's what that meant. That means from moving forward, now you are becoming a servant of the Lord you profess to follow. That's what that meant. So when you said Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, you was letting go the yokes of kufr, of disbelief. You was letting go the yokes of sin. You was letting go the yokes of disobedience and bid'ah. You was letting go all of that stuff. And you was coming into a light. But now you have to take the book, because that's where you're going to get your guidance from, and you have to take the authentic sunnah. So whenever you do not do that, we have to question ourselves, right? So Sheikh Fawzan comment on this. He said, "من قال لا إله إلا الله وكفر بما عبد من دون الله." He said, "هذا قيد عظيم وهو قوله." He said, this is a tremendous qayd. This is a tremendous condition that is set, that is limit. This is a limit here. Allah Jalla, the Prophet ﷺ has placed a limit here, and that is you have to disbelieve in whatever is worshipped besides Allah. He said, because many people say La ilaha illallah, but yet you still see them worship people in the grave. They don't leave it off. Many people say La ilaha illallah, but they still worship people in the grave. Many people say La ilaha illallah and they still celebrate birthdays. And you keep saying, brother, why you keep talking about the birthdays? The birthdays really ain't no big deal. No, the birthdays really is a big deal. You don't even get it. You don't even dig how deep the birthday thing is. It's steeped in shirk. It doesn't even have, it don't have no sanction or remedy from Allah Azza wa Jal. It's steeped, even the tradition, the origin of it, where it came from, is from shirk. It actually originated with the Egyptians, who were trying to honor their gods with a birthday. It wasn't until the Romans took it and made it a part of the common tradition of man. It had nothing to do with Allah and his injunction. Allah never sanctioned in any, pay attention, in any scripture that was ever sent, Allah never said celebrate the birthday in which you were born. It's crazy, right? Plus, your actions are concluded by when you die. It was never sanctioned in that way. And in order to understand the purpose of when Allah Jalla wa Ala commands something, Allah have a verse in Surah Al-Ahzab where He says, وَإِذَا قَضَى اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ, when Allah and His Messenger have decided a matter, it's not for the believing men and the women to question it. Okay? Some stuff you would not even understand. But in this stuff you can. Like we said, with celebrating birthdays, you can understand that it's really not sanctioned by the Creator, because your born day, you're only born once. The significance of your born day isn't the, it's supposed to be you appreciating just the Creator because He gave you life. All right? And if technically you really want to talk about when you actually was given that life, when you go back to the actual 40 days, the 120 days when the ruh is actually put inside the, what's the name? Inside the womb, when it is blown? Or would you talk about the day when you came out physically? You do know that you go through stages before you actually, while you're in the womb, right? You do know that Allah Jalla wa Ala sends the angel to write down 4 things, right? You do know how that's the fashion. So if you really want to celebrate something, don't you think that you will be really celebrating that incident that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you life? There's no significance for that. Allah Jalla wa Ala didn't sanction that. So we need to stay away from that. He says, what du'a and what? There are many people who call on the dead, and there are many of us who calls on other people. It might not be the dead, but there's many of us who say stuff that is really borderline shirk, that we don't even pay attention to actually saying that. And we do things that are very like, even with the superstitious stuff, it's still shirk. Believing that something can happen to you because you do something or feel something or said something that is not sanctioned by that of Allah and His Messenger. The only one who has the ability to harm you or to allow anything to harm you will be Allah Azza wa Jal. And to believe that something else can happen to you by anything else or of a nature or anything like that, then this is shirk, and this is falling into that. وَإِسْتِغَاثَةُ بِهِمْ وَطَلَبُ حَاجَاتُ مِنْ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ, and seeking your needs. This is real deep right here. Seeking your needs from other than Allah. Here, you see a lot of people, they seek their needs and helps from people they think that is righteous, saints, people that are dead, that they believe that it was righteous or right or morally correct, and they go to the grave asking them to help them. We know this is big shirk kabir. This is major shirk that takes you out of the fold of Islam. May Allah protect us from that. I mean, however, there are a minor form of this where people believe that others who have the ability to help them can help them out of their needs. This is why it's important you understand. In Al-Fatiha, we say, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. You alone do we worship, and you alone do we seek aid. The scholars have explained that Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she has said that we would ask Allah for everything, even down to our shoelaces. So the way that they beat that, they were able to say that if you're going to ask the creation, there are conditions for the action creation. But the first thing you do before you ask anybody is you ask Allah. That's with anything. You a believer, your needs is going to be met through Allah. So you're going to begin by asking Allah first, anything. Whether it's you need to borrow $20, whether you need to borrow 10, you're going to ask Allah to provide you with that. Okay? This is where you're going to direct the Tawheed. This is where the Tawheed is going to come into play. This is where you're going to realize the one who's giving this to you, the one who is the cause of this, and not the person who is the messenger, not the one who is actually being used as an agent to help you via God. You have to understand this, okay? Now, the conditions is, the scholars, they explain that whoever you ask must have the ability to do that for you. Okay, they meaning they must be alive. They must be capable and able to actually do what you're asking them to do. If you ask them to do something that they don't have the ability to do, then you are giving them the divine features that is only for Allah, and this is shirk. So you have to understand the difference of that. Alright, so when you want to seek your needs, seek it with Allah Azza wa Jal. We should constantly communicate with Allah. Constantly, not when we only in bad times, but in good times. Always talk to Allah. Allah hears. He's more closer to you than your jugular veins. Allah actually hears you. So you need to constantly speak to Him more. He says, وَهَؤُلَاءِ لَتَنْفَعُهُمْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. So this is an example of a group of people who they have said La ilaha illallah, however it did not benefit them whatsoever. لِأَنَّهُمْ لَمْ يَكْفِرُوا بِمَا يُعْبَدُ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ, because they have not disbelieved in that which is worshipped besides Allah Azza wa Jal. I'm almost done, brothers and sisters. He said, إِلَى غَيْرِ ذَلِكَ مِنَ أَحَادِيثِ دَلَّتِ عَلَى جُحَالَةِ أَكْثَرِ النَّاسِ بِهَذِهِ الشَّهَادَةِ. This is back now. We move from Sheikh Fawzan's statement We're going back to Sheikh Muhammad Wahab's statement. He said, and other than that, from those hadiths that indicates that the ignorance of most of the people when it comes to the Shahada. I want you to understand what he's saying here. Majority of the people, and this is a rule of thumb that even Sheikh Islam Taymiyyah made clear, and I try to live by this rule of thumb. When it comes to the deen, the rule of thumb is that the commoners, majority of the commoners are ignorant to the deen. We cannot assume because someone adorn a garment or a thobe or even give ammunition or a monitor. They need to still, like even myself, we still need to know our levels. There are certain things we cannot answer. There are certain things we do not know. There are certain things, knowledge that we have not been privy to, or researches or studies that we have not have done. So we need to fear Allah Jalla wa Ala before answering and before giving you a question, an answer, because we don't know. That's not our level. So you have to understand that there are ignorance when it comes to the Shahada. Sheikh Al-Albani was of this opinion as well. When it comes to the Shahada of La ilaha illallah, this is your foundation. Okay? You can't build a house unless you got a solid foundation, right? For those who are carpenters and know. You can't build anything unless you got a solid foundation. The foundation of the pillars of Islam is the Shahada. Without that, Buni al-Islam ala khams, as the Prophet ﷺ said. He said Islam is based upon 5. And the first thing he said was the Shahada. So without the Shahada, there is no building. There's nothing, there's no solid edifice. There's nothing to stand upon, nothing to stand erected. So if that is weak, if our covenant is weak, then we're not going to be good Muslims. Do you understand this? In order to be a Muslim, you have to take Shahada. You're not going to be a good Muslim if your covenant, if your foundation is weak. If it got loopholes, it's weak. There are certain things that are required of us when we say La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. We haven't graduated from that. I know I haven't, because I'm still doing certain things that doesn't entail that. You understand? The companions, they will actually fight over who would get the sweat of the Prophet ﷺ, who would have the wudu there, who would take his shoes. Reverence. That some of the people, the kuffar of the Quraysh, they saw that the way that the people are doing the peace treaty of Hudaybiyah, they saw that the way that the companions were over the Prophet ﷺ. And Allah sent down a whole surah dealing with them, even in dealing with the issue of Hujurat, 49th chapter of the Quran. In dealing with etiquettes and manners and how to address the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We are not like that with the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu. We can hear a hadith today or tomorrow and we'll sit there and go back and forth. It don't penetrate our hearts. There's no reflection on it. There's no reverence on it. Individual will be saying the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and you sitting there raising your voice even louder, or you flagging, or you waving it away, or you don't even take your time to commit it to memory, or to even lend your ear to it, to hear what actually been said. Your reverence for the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You don't have to be Allah for you to still reverence, to have that reverence. You know for sure that your La ilaha illallah Muhammadur is weak. And this is why you are sympathetic, and this is why you continue to carry out certain things and do certain things, because your foundation is shaky. And that's where I have did some self-reflection at. Why am I not a better Muslim? Why am I not a good Muslim? Why am I not doing that which the Sahabas have done, or even trying to attempt to do it? Because I have an approach and have accepted the Shahada in the way that it's supposed to have been accepted. And beg Allah Jalla wa Ala to allow us to truly, truly, truly go back to the beginning and solidify our foundation. Solidify, learn more about the statement of La ilaha illallah. What does it entail? What does it mean? You can say La ilaha illallah and be the most bravest person alive. There is nothing stronger than it. The man going to come to the Prophet ﷺ with sins. He's going to have of sins, 99 strolls, sins laid out from here to there. This is going to be brought in the Day of Judgment. And then there's going to be one bataqa. Allah is going to order the angels to bring one bataqa, one card. And you know what that one card going to have? It's his statement, La ilaha illallah. And it's going to wipe away all of those 99 scrolls of bad deeds. This is the power and the significance of La ilaha illallah. Do you understand? This is why those companions were able to face immeasurable and unnumberable odds. When their hearts were shaken, as Abdullah ibn Umar said, our hearts were flying out our chests on the battlefield. This is why they was able to do that, because they had La ilaha illallah. Even saying it in Arabic, the benefits in that. Look, this La ilaha. There's no statement like it. La ilaha illallah. There's no statement like it. None. There's no statement superior to it. There is nothing more beautiful than it. And I'm not saying this just to sound good. I'm telling you that's the truth. There's nothing better than saying La ilaha illallah. It's the highest form of dhikr. As the Prophet ﷺ said, Iman is what? Sittuna wa sab'una shu'batan min al-iman. He said that what? He said Iman has 60 to 70 odd branches. He said for Allah, for Afdalaha, he said the most high and the most superior and the most virtuous of its branches is La ilaha illallah. That's it. That's it. No one can stand up to that. Period. Whether you understand Arabic or not, you tell someone La ilaha illallah, they know you just said something. And it meant something. And it's the most beautiful thing they have ever heard. La ilaha illallah. There is no Isa you worshiping. There's no creation you worshiping. There's no angel you worshiping. There's no prophet you worshiping. There's no saint you worshiping. There's no tree you worshiping. There's no grave you worshiping. You are not given any control, any power, any authority to anything but Allah. La ilaha illallah. You have not given any power, any authority, anything to Allah. There is nothing that can happen to you on the face of this earth. I don't care when it happened or how it happened or what happened, except that He had allowed it to happen. And if He have allowed it to happen and you understand that He have allowed it to happen, then it was decreed. And it's only going to cause two things for you. One is going to cause for you to elevate yourself through this adversity and trial, or two is going to cause you to distance yourself from Allah Azza wa Jal because you don't understand the importance of La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. There's nothing strong of it. It's so much so that Ibrahim alayhi salam, as Allah Jalla wa Ala tells us in the Quran, that He has made Ibrahim leave it as a ja'ala iqab to his offspring. Ja'ala Ibrahim baqiyata fi aqibihi la'allahum yarji'un. He has left it as an aqab. Okay, as Allah Jalla wa Ala says in the Quran, وَجَعَلَهَا كَلِمَةً بَاقِيَةً فِي عَقِبِهِ. And we have made it a kalima. And this kalima is La ilaha illallah. This kalima is La ilaha illallah. We have made it remain amongst his offspring of Ibrahim. We have made La ilaha illallah remain through the test of times. La ilaha illallah. It's nothing greater. So why is it that we are rectifying it? That we are breaking it? Why isn't it we can't keep our covenant? Why is it we can't keep our trust? You're supposed to be ambassadors, all of us, for Allah Azza wa Jal, but we're not ambassadors for Allah Jalla wa Ala. We are worrying about everything else going on in life. Everything else takes precedent in life. Our standards has been raised, the bar has been raised by what we see others do. People who don't believe in La ilaha illallah. People who don't care about La ilaha illallah. People who don't place significance on La ilaha illallah. And you look up to them. When Allah said, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمْ شَرُّ الْبَرِيَّةِ, when Allah told you that they was the worst of creation, and He said about the people who believe and do righteous deeds, that أُولَٰئِكَ هُمْ خَيْرُ الْبَرِيَّةِ, He said they were the best of creation. So Allah told you the worst of the creation were those who what? And you rather follow and emulate the people who are the worst of creation? Why? Because you think they have some status in the dunya? You think they have some status in the dunya? A person can be broke financially, but be the most richest person alive in his heart. He have contentment, be the most richest person alive in his mind. He have mental stability, be the most richest person alive in spirituality. He have a spiritual nourishment about himself, that even the person who is the most wealthiest in the dunya, who doesn't have La ilaha illallah, who doesn't have no faith, he is never satisfied. He was always anxious. He's afraid of everything. He believed that his wealth can be taken at any moment. He's always in a frightful state. And what is that? What is that? There's nothing like it. Man can be laying literally on the streets, financially bankrupt, on the streets. And he say, La ilaha illallah. It was dragging Bilal ibn Rabah. They was dragging him. They was dragging him in the hot sun. It's burning up right now. They was dragging him in the hot sun, letting the kids play with him. And all he kept saying is, Ahad, Ahad, Ahad. Dragging him in the hot sun. When Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with La ilaha illallah, it wasn't no philosophy. It wasn't no Aristotle, even though it's later on. It wasn't no sophisticated or have to be high, complicated way of approaching the people. It was La ilaha illallah. So much so that the Quraysh, when they heard it, the only reason why they opposed it, as Allah tells us in Surah As-Saffat, إِنَّمَا يَقُولُونَ, that they only say, when you say to them, La ilaha illallah, yastakbirun, they puff themselves up with pride. And they say, should we forsake our aliha? You see? When they heard La ilaha illallah, they was putting their desires above accepting it, because they knew what it meant was that you have to abolish those false deities that you are worshiping now, and you have to surrender yourself to only one creator. And they didn't want to do that, because when they had, in the economy of the Quraysh during that time, when they had those different idols and people worshiping different idols, it was a money thing for them. They had a certain type of authority and things like that. So you have to study the history of Mecca and understand what was going on. It was an economy flux. But then Allah Jalla wa Ala broke that flux when he caused the Prophet ﷺ, as he came back into Mecca, and when he got into the Kaaba, he was destroying. He said, وَجَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلِ. Haq has came, and Batil has what? It was broken. Mughira, Shu'bah ibn Mughira, he heard the Prophet ﷺ recite the Quran. He went back to the Quraysh leaders and he told them, listen, leave that man alone, because he had something. I'm telling you, they've been to delegations of kings. They've been to all these different people, poets and soothsayers, but they never witnessed something as strong and potent as La ilaha illallah. Muhammad didn't call to himself. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't call to himself. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't put himself on a pedestal. La ilaha illallah. That's what raised the people. That's what raised the people. That's what raised you and I. That's what gives us our izzah. That's what gives us our honor. But we have to really maintain our covenant. We do. And I know I'm sitting here like I'm ranting, but I'm not ranting. We really have to maintain that covenant, because it's coming on a time that we are definitely in the end times, and it's coming on a time where the Quran is going to be removed, and the people are only going to say Allah, Allah. They're not even going to know how to say La ilaha illallah. It's going to come a time where people are not even going to say La ilaha illallah. It's going to come a time. And just look at it now. How many Muslims and brothers and sisters to this day don't know what La ilaha illallah means? It's sad. It's sad, man. You can have a conversation right now with everybody that you know. They don't know what La ilaha illallah means. It's sad. They're losing the knowledge right in front of them. It's all on the internet. The information is there. But that's not the problem. The problem is they're not even retaining it. La ilaha illallah is not something that they're worrying about. They're not retaining it. They'll wear the jilbab. They'll wear the thawb. They'll go to the masjid. You'll see them with Jumu'ah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. But soon you ask them about La ilaha illallah, crickets. Then you tell them to give you an example where they have practiced one of the conditions of La ilaha illallah in their life. When was it? When will you ever be sincere to that statement other than the time Ibn al-Qayyim described? He said the tongue will become heavy. The heart will become what? More sincere than it ever been in his life. If Allah even give you the opportunity to be on your deathbed, at this time is when everything is going to weigh on you. You're going to be the most truthful in your statement when you say La ilaha illallah. The tongue is going to be the most heaviest. He described it in detail. The heart is going to be most sincere. You're going to mean it with every ounce and joint of your body. You're going to mean La ilaha illallah at this time. You're going to mean it. It's going to mean something. But in your life, what did it really mean? Well, how did you really take it? What did it really mean to you? Did it mean that you was going to separate yourself from the kuffar? Did it mean you was going to have loyalty and association with those people who profess it and implement it? Did it mean you was going to have disloyalty and dissociation with people who don't? Do it mean that you was going to be unsympathetic? Does it mean that you was going to celebrate those things which Allah told you to celebrate? Does it mean that you was going to take the Quran as a guidance? Does it mean you was going to take Muhammad ﷺ as a guidance? Does it mean you was going to learn about Muhammad? You was going to learn about Muhammad so much so than you know about anything else. I'm not talking about knowing about the stats of athlete, whether or not we know about a football, whether we know about stats of athlete, or we know about an entertainer, we know about Nicki beef, we know about Beyonce beef, we know about all of this different stuff. All of that don't mean nothing and you don't know nothing about Muhammad. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Sheikh Salih Fawzan said it's not possible to follow a man you know nothing about. How can you say you follow him you know nothing about? Ibn al-Qayyim was traveling with no books. He was traveling. If anybody know about travel, when you travel, how tired you might be, you know what I mean? Even if you're not even on an airplane like that, you're traveling, you're not really sharp as wit because you're moving about to and fro. The man didn't have no books with him. He wrote a book that has been translated into 4 volumes. I believe it's 2 volumes actually. He wrote a book which is known as, and we know it as Zad al-Mu'ad. I have a longer name than that. And he written down, listen, it still blows my mind. He written down the life of the Prophet ﷺ, down to the fact of his cooking utensils. What type of riding beast he had. What was his sword's name? How many slave girls he had. What type of qamis or garment he wore. I can't even tell you. Can you tell me? Can you tell me what type of garment did the Prophet ﷺ wear? Can you? Can you tell me any name of any utensils that he had? I'll wait. Can you tell me what was the name of his sword? Can you tell me where he slept at? Can you? But you and I claim that we follow him. The scholars that reviewed the book after him, they made it clear that majority of the book was correct. And when I say majority of the book, we're talking about probably 2%, let's just say average, let's just say under 10% of it probably had some adjustments need to be done. But it was more than 90% accurate about the description of the Prophet's lives. To the name of his riding beast, I still don't know the name of his riding beast. Do you know? What was the name of the camel that he was sitting on that stopped in Medina? Do you know? But me and you still saying that we believe in Muhammad, right? Muhammad is our God. We follow Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? Me and you still saying that, but we don't know nothing about him. That's the same way I feel about my covenant being broke, because we say that about La ilaha illallah, but we don't even know about the conditions. We don't even know about the pillars. We don't even know nothing about it, man. Do that not make you feel like a fraud? This is the reason why I said what I said. I know I have fell short at my understanding of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, because I am not taking my time out to really study this stuff. This man, Sheikh Muhammad Wahab, he written a response, Tafsir Kalimat. He written a response just to explain the statement of La ilaha illallah. I didn't even give you the meat of it. Not only was he refuting people who went against it, I mean, that's just a bonus feature of it, but he was also explaining the different names that La ilaha illallah has, bringing the different verses to it. He was also explaining the things that invalidates it, the things that it entails, the different meanings, the conditions, the shurut, all of that different things he was able to pick down and pen about La ilaha illallah. Somebody asked me and you about La ilaha illallah, we might can give them 2 lines, 3 lines, but we won't be able to fulfill that whole page. We won't be able to write a whole page detailing La ilaha illallah. Don't go to no books. Don't open up the Quran. Don't open up no hadith. Don't get on your phone. Don't go search. Don't do no internet search or nothing. Do you and I have it in our breasts? That's the question you need to ask yourself. Until we get like that, we are playing with the La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and we are failing in our covenant. And this is why we are not producing the same thing that they have produced, because they took it serious. Abdullah ibn Umar, he urinated in the same place the Prophet ﷺ urinated. He followed in the same footsteps. He kissed the black stone because the Prophet ﷺ kissed the black stone. He followed the Prophet ﷺ footsteps. He wasn't ordered to do that. It said, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. But he wasn't ordered to take everything that the Prophet ﷺ did personally, to take it personally, but he still made his own ijtihad and did it. He wasn't ordered to do that. His father didn't even do that. Umar ibn Khattab did not do that. But he himself, Abdullah ibn Umar, he took it upon himself to follow the footsteps, literally in the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ. He followed it in detail. We're playing with the Sunnah, man. We're playing, bro. We're playing with the La ilaha illallah. It's clear, man. Whatever we said that was incorrect, man, it's definitely was. We're playing, man. I know I'm playing. I'm definitely playing. And we're distracted by everything. Kila Wakar, Jahwatat deal, all this little extra stuff. We're just distracted about this, who to take from, who not, what masjid to go for. Don't boast about no masjid to me. If everybody in that masjid can't write me down a treatise about La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, don't boast it. If no one can write about the seerah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, don't boast it. If no one can explain to you the cooking utensils of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what did he use? Tell me. You can't even name all of the Prophet wives, let alone his what nurses? Tell me. Who was the woman that he used to visit? When she passed, that Abu Bakr used to visit as well. He told Umar, let's go visit. What was her name? What type of shoes? What did he prefer? What did he lay on? What did he eat? What he didn't eat? But we Sunni. We Athari. Names. Sunni, Athari, Salafi. We all of these different things, right? We don't even know who Muhammad is. I don't know if that's scary or not, man. It's not funny, but we don't even know who Muhammad is. And I know you're saying, oh, brother, you can't talk like that. People do know who he is. Now, be real. Be honest with yourself. Is Muhammad known in your house? Just be honest. Is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam known in your house? Huh? Bull Waste rahimahullah, what did he say? He said, I gave a khutbah and I was talking about Mustafa, and the kids was running around talking about who Mustafa. Do you even know the different names the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam have? I'm not making this up. We don't know him. And if you don't know him, Sheikh Salih Fawzan said, how can you follow him? How can you claim to follow him if you don't know him? And that's where we need to start being real with ourselves. Are we real? Don't tell me about scholar so-and-so. Don't tell me about the minhaj that you follow. Don't tell me about how you so stern against bid'ah. Brother, you need to be stern against your ignorance, because you're jahl when it comes to your Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You're jahl when it comes to the statement of La ilaha illallah. Tell me about that. Did you fight against that? That's what I want to hear, the sternness coming at. Don't tell me about how stern you are against bid'ah. You can't really, it's a contradiction. On one hand, we over here, we against everybody, the Sufis, the Maturidiyya. It's a contradiction. But you don't even know La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. How? It's weak. The foundation is weak. How? You think those live that Sheikh Fawzan is doing right now when he keep talking about majority of the وَكَثِيرٌ مِنَ النَّاسِ يَجْحَلُونَ بِالتَّوْحِيدِ? You think when he keeps saying this majority of the people are ignorant when it comes to Tawheed? He's not lying. It's over 1 billion Muslims right now, but I guarantee you there's a fraction of Muslims that really know what it means. It's over 1 billion Muslims. The Prophet ﷺ said, rather you're going to be many, kathir, like the foam of the sea. You're going to be many. Don't be taking it by numbers. The battle of Badr and the battle of Uhud taught you that. Don't be taking it about numbers. The Muslims was twice the match on Uhud. It was twice the numbers they was in battle of Badr, but they still lost. The Prophet ﷺ still got wounded. Life lessons. Whatever we set up was incorrect from ourselves and shaitan. Whatever we set up correct from Allah. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakallah khairan, ikhwah. Brothers and sisters, please, inshallah, make dua for everyone, and most importantly, make dua for yourself. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.